This study analyses and discusses the background, advantages and limitations of transit-oriented development and environmental benefits. This is the outline of our content. I will start with introduction. In emerging countries, the continuous increase in motor vehicle ownership and the extreme reliance on cars have led to the disorderly sprawl of cities, traffic jams, and environmental pollution, etc. Consumption of energy and the emission of a large amount of exhaust gas have especially posed severe challenges to the long-term development of human society. Based on the new understanding of environmental and development issues in many aspects, the international community put forward the concept of sustainable development in our common future in 1987. Subsequently, at the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, Agenda 21 proposed a specific global action plan, which specifically mentioned environmental issues closely related to modern land-use transportation. From the perspective of sustainable development, the public transportation with high occupancy rate is much better than the personal car in terms of per capita energy consumption and exhaust emissions. Therefore, the most important approach in formulating sustainable urban planning policies should emphasize the integration of land use and transportation development, encourage the use of non-motorized and public transportation, and reduce personal dependence on cars. Because of the integrated land use and transportation development planning policies, transit-oriented development is probably the most popular, influential, and certainly partially successful planned development policy. High rates of car ownership and frequent use have led to the continuous expansion of cities, increasing the spatial separation between living, working, and other life services. The inevitable result of this is the requirement to build more roads to meet the new lifestyle, which in turn leads to an inevitable increase in car ownership and travel. This spiral upward situation makes the traffic problems in urban development more serious. But we should clearly see that the root of this problem lies in the interaction of people's dependence on cars in urban sprawl. In fact, a similar situation exists in most Western countries, and in addition, it has also begun to appear in some Asian cities with rapid economic development. Studies have shown that in urban California, motor vehicle-related pollutants account for more than 50% of all soot sources and more than 90% of carbon dioxide emissions, while carbon dioxide from cars alone accounts for about 40% of California's total. In Shanghai, total ownership of vehicles reached 1.41 million. The average annual growth rate in the 1990s reached 16–17%. It is assumed that by 2030, China will reach an urban population of around 800 million. If the use of cars is close to the current average level in the United States, then the total carbon dioxide emissions from motor vehicles in China's urban areas alone will exceed 1 billion tons. That is, equivalent to all current cities in the world traffic emissions. If there is no action, this will undoubtedly be another disaster, not only for China, but for the entire human world. The concept of transit-oriented development began to be proposed in the United States in the late 1980s. In principle, TOD is a planning method that reduces reliance on motor vehicles by placing residents close to public transport stations. The main principles include, first, the TOD-type community is located at the place where the public transportation station is located, and the distance to it is kept within the walking range and the use of public transportation is emphasized. In the form planning and design, the environment design and configuration that emphasizes walking and bicycles are given priority. In terms of land use, the overall emphasis is on the mix of different functions such as residential, retail, office, and public open space, and to ensure that each community has a commercial core. Such a development model naturally encourages residents and staff to walk or bike to the community center to use localized commercial and other public service facilities, or take public transportation to other places in the area for work, school, and errands. From the perspective of environmental sustainability, the biggest benefit of this model is that it reduces people's reliance on private cars, improves the efficiency of public transportation, and encourages walking and cycling, such as green travel methods, which ultimately reduce the consumption of energy and the emission of pollution and exhaust gas contribute to the sustainable development of urban areas. The community in Mountain View, Bayside, San Francisco, is a typical TOD project built on a mall site. Since the early 1990s, This commercial center based on the concept of car travel and shopping has been in financial crisis for various reasons, and finally closed, leaving behind withered buildings and empty parking lots. Knowing that Caltrans's planned intercity railroad would traverse the site and build a station, the city of Mountain View saw the site as a good opportunity for renewal. Stakeholders including local governments, planners, developers, and the public generally believe that an important condition for the final success of development projects is to build a high-density, large-scale mixed land-use development policy, because this could ensure adequate taking advantage of the convenience of this railway station. It also has the opportunity to realize the humanistic design concept advocated by New Urbanism. After several rounds of public consultation on the plan, all parties reached an agreement on the final planning plane, flattening the original shopping center, and building a TOD-type community with a 9 meters wide street as the skeleton on the entire new site. Now on the site of Caltrain Station, a new 8-hectare community of high-density, mixed land use has been built, including a variety of public service facilities, commercial facilities, and a variety of residential units. The density reaches about 80 residential units per hectare. The compact development model also means that all local public services are within walking distance, taking full advantage of the environmental advantages of cycling and walking. Now the residents of the cruise community enjoy the convenience of freely choosing various travel modes. Compared with other development projects, the traffic volume and traffic congestion in the community have decreased, and the environmental pollution has been significantly reduced. For this achievement, the American Planning Association awarded Mountain View's Integrated Transit-Oriented Development Plan with the 2002 National Outstanding Plan Implementation Award. From an urban planning and design perspective, TOD does provide more options and benefits for environmental sustainability. Increasing the occupancy rate of public transportation through high-density development also encourages non-motorized and public transportation travel, thereby reducing motor vehicle dependence and ultimately reducing greenhouse gas and other exhaust emissions. Studies have shown that compared to other average American communities, the cruise community in Mountain View reduces traffic-related emissions by about 10% to 30% by reducing personal motor vehicle travel. The California Air Resources Council also found that TOD and related land use planning can effectively reduce the exhaust emissions of each suburban household by about 10% minus 20%, or 20% to 30% of urban household emissions. On average, families living in TOD communities can reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 2.5-3.7 tons per year. TOD does have the potential to reduce people's motor vehicle dependence, reduce air pollution and exhaust emissions. Based on a series of studies conducted in San Diego, self-selection bias is the biggest difficulty in the study of the sustainability benefits of TOD models. Residents who prefer to travel by public transportation are more likely to accept TOD-type neighborhoods. Residents living in this kind of community did not change their travel habits, they just migrated and concentrated to a typical community from other places, instead of switching from car to public transportation. Those who use cars frequently continue to live in suburbs lacking public transport services, and continue to drive everywhere. Lifestyles. TOD is to provide an additional option for those who tend to use public transportation, thereby promoting the concentration of previously dispersed residents with such tendencies and habits to live in a certain community. TOD community has not changed motor vehicle dependence and reduced exhaust emissions at the district level. Charles and Barton evaluated the impact of the MAX rail line on people's choice of residential location, public transportation occupancy, and car trips based on data analysis. Built in 1986, convenient to go to the city center from here, good location conditions to develop into a TOD. Most of them preferred to live in neighborhoods close to Cornell Road, where they could easily choose to drive. There were quite few new neighborhoods in the surrounding area. For the purpose of environmental sustainability, planning policies should be placed in a larger context and integrated with other urban public policies. It is an effective policy to adopt a certain level of reasonable charges for the purchase and use of personal cars. There are also increasing vehicle fuel taxes and private vehicle purchase taxes, restricting parking spaces and implementing high parking fees, setting up bus lanes, increased bus speed and more. Traffic calming has received widespread adoption in Europe, but it has not attracted enough attention in China. An effective way to encourage urban walking environment and inhibit the use of motor vehicles. Carry out special design treatment on the relevant nodes of urban roads, such as special materials for road surfaces, narrow road entrances, the treatment of road planes, etc. Reduces vehicle speed and transforms urban streets from a role dominated by motor vehicles to a more humane and safer environment. According to the theory of urban traffic economics, the congestion charge is used to reflect the total social cost of personal transportation, that is, including its external cost of environmental pollution and traffic congestion. In this regard, there are quite a few successful examples: Singapore, Melbourne, and London, etc. Affirming the benefits of other public policies does not deny that TOD plays an important role in urban development, at least from the structure of the entire city. This model provides the possibility of urban development based on public transportation. In China's current urban development conditions, urban high-density development is also accompanied by rapid urban expansion. To some extent, TOD is the most effective way in the long run. A series of integrated urban regional public policies are still needed, including new models to encourage urban development. However, this method must be based on the characteristics of the development of each urban area to design policies to provide effective and reasonable methods, provide reference for decision makers, and more importantly, reduce energy consumption and move towards a sustainable urban development path.